Hey, and welcome. So you're aiming for that top-tier CLB 12 on the CELPIP speaking test, right? Well, you've definitely come to the right place. In this explainer, we're going to break down the exact strategies that can get you there. And this isn't just theory, it's from a proven high-scoring playbook. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, we're not messing around here. We're pulling these tips directly from the source. The very techniques that Ollie Rostigeri used to absolutely ace his own exam. So what you're about to hear, it's not just theory from a textbook, it's a battle-tested approach that actually works. The whole idea is to give you a clear, simple path you can follow yourself. So here's the game plan. You know there are 8 speaking tasks, right? Well, to make things way easier, we've grouped them into 4 main skill areas. We're going to cover giving advice and opinions, then telling personal stories, mastering those tricky picture tasks, and finally, nailing comparisons and problem solving. And stick around, because at the end, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you need for that CLB 12. All right, first up, Section 1. We're talking tasks 1 and 7, which are all about giving advice and sharing your opinion. Now, you might think they're pretty different, but here's the secret. They both use the exact same powerful structure. Seriously, it's a framework that just makes sure your answer is clear, backed up with good reasons, and, well, complete. And here it is. This 5-step formula is pretty much the core of the whole strategy. And you know what's great about it? It's simple. You start off direct. You back it up with 2 or 3 solid reasons, using those handy transition words like firstly and secondly. Then you make it relatable with a quick personal story. And to finish, you just wrap it all up with a strong conclusion. Think of this structure as your secret weapon. Okay, let's see that first step in action. So for task 7, where you're expressing an opinion, you do not want to beat around the bush. Just jump right in with a direct, confident statement like this one. It tells the examiner exactly where you stand right from the get-go and sets a really strong tone for your whole answer. All right, let's move on to Section 2. We're looking at Task 2 now, and this one is all about telling a personal story. The goal here isn't just to list off a bunch of events, it's about making your experience feel real, making it memorable, and getting that high score by actually connecting with the listener on an emotional level. So, how do you actually do that? Well, you follow these steps. First, you set the scene. Give us some context. Then, tell us what you actually did. But honestly, the real magic happens in steps 3 and 4. You have to express your feelings and use descriptive language. You finish it off with a little reflection on what you learned from it all. This is what takes a basic story and turns it into something really compelling. And this is a perfect example of what I mean. Instead of just saying, he was happy, this sentence actually paints a picture for you. It uses that descriptive language, the smile on his face, and it expresses that core emotion, pure joy and accomplishment. See, that's what makes your story feel real, and that's what's going to earn you those top marks. Okay, let's tackle the visual challenge, the picture tasks. So tasks 3, 4, and 8 all give you a picture to look at. But here's the catch. They each ask you to do something a little different. Don't worry, we're going to break down the specific approach you need for every single one, from just describing what you see to predicting what might happen next. First up, task 3. For this one, the key is all about order and logic. Please, don't just start randomly listing things you see. You want to start with the big picture, right? What's the overall scene? Is it a busy park? A quiet library? Then, you systematically move from the main things you notice down to the smaller, minor details. This shows the examiner that you're thinking in a structured way. And to make that description really precise, you're going to need these kinds of terms. Using spatial language, like in the foreground or in the top right corner, is so helpful. It lets the examiner visualize the scene exactly as you're seeing it. It just makes your description so much clearer, more organized, and way more effective. All right, now for task 4. You might be looking at the same picture, but your job completely changes. This task is basically a direct test of how well you can use the future tense. Seriously, the examiner is specifically listening for words like will, is going to, and will probably. So you need to use them often, and you need to use them with confidence. And that brings us to task 8, the one about the unusual situation. And let me tell you, this kind of casual conversational opener is pure gold. It immediately sets this natural tone, like you're actually on the phone with a friend. Plus, it creates a bit of mystery, It just draws the listener right into whatever strange scene you're about to describe. It's a fantastic way to start. Okay, let's jump into our final set of tasks. This section covers 2 pretty sophisticated skills. First, you've got task 5, where you have to compare a couple of options and persuade someone.
And then there's task 6, where you need to handle a difficult social situation with a lot of empathy and tact. So, for task 5, your whole job is to compare two things. But here's the pro tip: don't just list a bunch of facts and numbers. The key is to use strong comparative words. For example, saying that flying is way faster or more convenient is so much more persuasive, and it shows a way better command of the language than just, listing the travel times. And this strategy, it works so well. And it's really all about psychology. Before you even start making your case, you acknowledge the other person's choice. It shows them you're actually listening, and it makes them way more open to hearing your points. It's a really powerful persuasion technique that builds a connection before you even get to the main argument. Now for task 6, the name of the game is empathy. You've got to deliver some bad news, so the structure here is everything. You start off with a casual greeting, then you show them you understand how they feel. Something like, "I'm so sorry to hear you're having a tough day." Then you deliver the news gently, but, and this is key, you immediately offer a helpful alternative. This whole approach just softens the blow and helps preserve the relationship. Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? So for our final section, let's pull it all together. These are the big ideas, the universal principles that you can, and really you should, apply to every single one of the 8 speaking tasks if you're serious about pushing your score to that CLB-12 level. If there's one pattern you should take away from all this, it's the magic number 3. Or maybe 2. The point is, whether you're giving advice, making predictions, or comparing options, aiming for 2 or 3 solid supporting points just gives your answers so much more depth and structure. It's a super simple rule that makes sure you're always providing enough detail. So think of this as your universal checklist. You can literally use it for every single task. Always start strong and direct. Use transition words to guide your listener. Whenever you can, try to weave in a story to make it more relatable. Express some emotion to make it impactful. And please, always have a clear closing statement. That right there, that's your formula for consistency and for getting an excellent score. So there you have it. We've completely broken down the playbook for a CLB-12. You've got the structures, you've got the strategies, you've got the key phrases. Really, all that's left is for you to put it all into action. So take a look back at everything we've covered and just ask yourself this one simple question: which task are you going to practice first?